Hey everyone, this is Victor again with eCoffees with Experts, and today we have an award-winning expert here. He won several Oscars, Emmys, and everything else that you can make throughout Hollywood. Here we have Jeff Roberts, everyone from Innovation Vista. Jeff, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Victor. Thanks so much for inviting me on the program.
No, thank you for being here, really. We've already talked with some founders throughout the episodes that I've been. But you are definitely not only the award part of things, but 30 years of experience. You were a CIO for 5 times in different companies, am I right? Uh,
That's right.
and then you left the CIO role to co-found Innovation Vista, and here you are.
Yep.
Can you tell us more about this journey?
Yeah, it's first of all, at a technology level, I've known my whole life, really since early teenage years, that I wanted to work in IT.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, really, I was not one of those kids that goes to college and switches majors and, doesn't know what they want to do. So that was nice. And really, my whole life, I've been intrigued and just knew from that early age that computers are going to get more powerful. The, just the sky's the limit on what we can do with them to improve life and business and society in general. So started out on the employee side as a W-2 all the way through. Started out as a programmer, data modeler, got into project management, and then had an opportunity to enter the org chart
Hmm.
IT role as a director initially in the mid 90s and made my way up, like you said, to CIO at 5 different companies. And I enjoyed that role a lot. And I
Okay.
was actually, every place is different, but the role itself just has a lot of, there's a lot of challenge. There's technical challenge, strategic, of course, leadership and communication.
Sure.
So I love that. But I realized that there's a whole swath of the middle market of organizations that are they really are large enough to need guidance like what
Hmm.
a CIO or CTO can provide, but they don't feel like they're large enough to have a budget for a full-time person in that role. And I just saw this over and over. So they do one of several things to run their IT. Some of them go with a middle manager sort of person
Hmm.
that is more affordable. A lot of those people are really, really smart, but what they have often is kind of a blind spot of what they've not been exposed to elsewhere, especially if they're homegrown, or just a blind spot because they've only focused their career on one aspect of IT or the other. Often it's sort of a ladder of the career as I describe it. You've got the infrastructure, operations, cybersecurity sort of element, and a lot of people are interested in that and make their way up. And then you've got programming, systems, integrations, APIs, data, analytics, that
Hmm.
side of the career ladder. And it's not until you really get to the C level in IT that you bridge those worlds. So there is often a blind spot with companies that are trying to rely on a middle manager to run their IT. So we can add value there, or we can come in as a virtual CIO and give them that perspective of someone who is used to leading the effort and the strategy and the projects for the whole. In other companies, they have a head of IT
Yeah.
and they're doing well, but they're overwhelmed. The ebb and flow of project work, and especially strategic project work, that they would love to spend their personal time on, but there's only so many hours in the day.
Yeah.
So we come in as in an advisory capacity, really to supplement the CIO. That's another sort of service that I saw a need for, and that's sort of project level. It comes and it goes. It's often short term. Maybe there's a merger and acquisition happening. That's a big one where the number of changes and the strategic and delicate nature of the changes is such that they really need a C-level person to help with that. They're busy with their day job, so to speak.
Hmm.
So that kind of engagement. And so back in 2019, the company I was last CIO for was acquired by a big multinational. And rather than try to find CIO chair number 6 when that transition was going to finish, I decided, you know what, I'm gonna open up this consulting firm and start to offer these services to this part of the middle market that is really underserved. I think feeling some pain.
That's great to know regarding the middle size market. We have a similar situation back in Brazil where a lot of companies pay closer attention to enterprise and small than the middle ones.
Yeah,
The middle ones are kind of left unchecked. Like they don't know where to go. Usually the software is too complex for the middle or too basic for it, right? Because they're
right.
focusing on the two ends, not the in between. Before we start talking about Innovation Vista, there is the virtual CIO. Can you tell us more about it? It's a term we usually know about the CIO, as usual
Right.
CEO, CMO, CTO. But then you add the virtual. I know the answer, but I'm sure there are people watching this who doesn't. Do you mind clarifying for them?
No, it's a great question, and yeah, I appreciate the chance to clarify because there's several similar concepts in the market. There's
Yes.
a fractional CIO. That term has been around for a lot longer. In fact, when I started Innovation Vista, I was using the term fractional CIO a lot more
Okay.
so. What happened with COVID is that, of course, it was horrible in so many
Yeah.
ways, but some of the silver lining in the cloud for consultants like us is this comfort level that people began to get with video conferencing and doing
Yeah.
business like this. And it really opened the door. So we think of fractional CIO as a contract CIO level person that a company or an organization is engaged usually on a part-time basis to make it more affordable for them. They still have the benefit of all the insights and expertise, but they're getting 12 hours a week or
I
20
see.
hours a week or whatever is appropriate for them. They're usually local to the market, traditionally always so. They would pop in the office once a week or every other week for a face-to-face kind of interaction. With COVID and the sort of the coming of the virtual world, clients began to be comfortable getting their help from someone who lived in another market.
Yes.
And our consulting team, we've got over 430 consultants, and they are really worldwide. About 15% are outside the U.S. And coast to coast with respect to those that are in the U.S. And the ability to open up a search for which consultant is best suited to really
Hmm.
help guide the IT for a given client. If they're willing to take someone who doesn't live locally, it opens up our whole directory for them, and we can really choose the very best fit. So we use this term virtual CIO as it doesn't have to be exclusively
Hmm.
remote, but it's primarily remote. And we see a lot of clients that they love getting the better fit, even if it's a time zone away or two time zones away. And sometimes they will want that consultant to hop on a plane and be in their office face to face for
Sure.
the initial kickoff. There's some power in that, right? Human nature and
Easier to
trust.
connect as well.
Absolutely. So that's still very real. We have some clients that don't even ask for that.
Hmm.
Uh, Many do. But then after that initial period, they're comfortable that most of the work is going to be done often from home. A
Hmm.
lot of these consultants work from home, as do I, and so we're delivering this expertise mainly in a virtual way. So that's a long answer maybe to the question,
No,
but
that was a perfect answer.
CIO as opposed to fractional. And of course, the full-time CIO is very common, been around for decades, but it's expensive. And to get a qualified, seasoned person, even in the middle market, you're looking at 500,000 a year or more.
Okay.
And so our whole value proposition really is sort of offering what we call 100% of the expertise for a fraction of the cost of what it would take to hire them full time.
That's actually
And
brilliant. And you're mentioning about it all. And as we already know, you went through the CIO to Innovation Vista, and now you're sharing some of innovation. Go on. I think, do let us know more about what it is that you do. How was it at first? This is a question that I always like to ask. How was it when you started it up? The issues you had. Open up your heart to talk about your traumas here, because traumas are what help people move forward once they are
no, you're right.
solved, right?
You're right. And look, the entrepreneurial journey is a daunting
Yes.
thing for everyone, right? It's a big decision. How much money do you have in savings, and do you really understand your target market and your value proposition and your ideal customer profile? And
So many
there's a lot.
variations.
Yeah, and for people who are not trained as marketing or sales pros, like myself, having to learn all of that, frankly, still learning all of that, if I'm honest, right?
Hmm.
We're in
Sure,
our
every
second
day.
year of operation. We had a record year. We have had a record year every year,
That's
actually, but
great.
another good record year in 2024, and I'm still learning. So I think really we think about guiding this affordable solution,
Hmm.
giving organizations wise guidance on their technology. Things are changing so fast. They're changing actually faster than ever with respect to technology. And
Yes,
that is
especially after
accelerating
COVID.
absolutely. And AI, and
And
right,
yeah.
like all of these things that are on the landscape now
Hmm.
that really are options for small and mid-sized companies even. They're affordable, they're doable, they're real. There is some hype out there, particularly around AI, that people overpromise and underdeliver, of course.
Agree.
But this value of that experience guidance has never been more valuable, in my opinion. I have a
Okay.
biased opinion. But the pace of change, the strategic risk that's involved with technology, what it can mean for disruption for organizations, I just think if you value outside expertise anywhere, you ought to value it here in innovation and IT. So our services really are, we often start with an assessment. Clients sometimes know exactly the kind of help that they need.
Rarely,
That's
yes.
one out of
Well, now,
eight. The vast majority, they know if they're unhappy. They know if they feel they're wasting money, they're not getting reliable performance out of their systems or their organization or vendor or all three. And they know that something needs to improve. That's a very common level of sentiment. And then they say, we don't know, like, what does that mean? What should we do
yeah.
different? What should we do the same? It's very understandable because for most business leaders, technology is a completely different language. Just as I was saying, I wasn't trained in marketing and sales and branding. They weren't trained in technology, right?
Exactly.
So we're usually engaged by a business executive who has that level of concern,
Hmm.
or or if they're not feeling pain, they know that they're interested in gain, right? They don't see technology contributing to their market share, their competitive advantage, and they want it to. So
Mm, okay.
that's a class of client we hear from as well. So we try to take them through an IT maturity journey. It's funny, sometimes we talk with business executives who want to start an AI program, right? Their board of directors maybe has come down and said, we got to do something, right? We heard our competitors doing AI. We're not. We,
We need to add a AI button to our software.
and that's a common, especially the last 18 months, I would say, very common. And we're helping a lot of companies figure out that strategy.
Yeah.
But we hear that sometimes from clients that have far more basic problems than that, right? Their systems are crashing on a regular
Okay.
basis. They have been breached from a security perspective. There's sometimes gaping holes or at least sizable holes in their protections that, so part of it is guiding them on which things do you do first.
Hmm.
So our framework, this is not rocket science at all, but our framework to sort of help navigate them is to stabilize their technology, then optimize, and then monetize.
Okay.
And we do that on purpose to sort of focus our efforts and the priority of projects and funding. If you need to stabilize, that has to be job one. And it frankly is just silly to think about starting an AI program if your systems are not reliably running. Your employees are going to look at you like you're crazy. You say, well, we still have all these problems, but we've got this new AI model. And the truth is, you probably don't have data that's in a state that's ready to do professional AI unless you've done some of this preparatory work, stabilizing and optimizing your platform. So that's a big part, getting people sort of to that level where they can think about real innovation.
Hmm.
The basics are covered, so to speak, the blocking and tackling and so forth. They wake up every day. This is what I tell CEOs. We need to get you to the point where you wake up every day and you never worry about what is going to crash today. You never worry when you're looking at a report about, is this number actually right? Or do I need to triangulate this and just make sure before I take an action on this number that I see on this report? We get past that where the trust is built, the reliability, the stability is there. Things are optimized, they're connected together, they're integrated where they should be. The data from the enterprise is treated as an asset to some level there. We're thinking about data quality, completeness, maybe enrichment,
Hmm.
deduplication, like that. We need to get you to that point. Then all kinds of exciting things become possible. And this is an area where, for whatever reason, it's kind of strange to me actually. We are unique. We are not the only firm who talks about this, certainly, but it's less than 10% of our competitors that talk about real strategic advantage, top line impact from technology, market share, revenue streams. Like it's just it's a blind spot in our industry, and I like that because it does help us be unique in this
Yeah.
space. So getting companies to pass that stabilize and optimize level, we can talk about monetizing IT and their data and their AI. And so that's a big push for us. We've got, I think, some very strategic frameworks and processes and our sort of intellectual property special sauce, if you will,
Hmm.
really relates to that. And you know, how do you find market share and how can technology move the needle? And you know, there's no recipe book. Obviously, it looks different in every industry. It looks different in every company within an industry because their positioning is different, their culture, their IT capabilities and data are all different. But there's a way to sort of think about that with respect to revenue streams and sales efforts and the competitive landscape that we help clients navigate and really play offense, if you will, with
That's a good point.
technology. Let's have it as a utility that's a light switch that, you know, it's great if you can rely on that light switch and it works every day. That's a good point to get to. But for us,
That's the
that really
dream.
just opens the door to now let's do real innovation.
I see. What you're talking about, we have here a large amount of our viewers come from the marketing and SEO market. And what you're talking about is pretty similar to SEO as well, which I know is something that innovation also works with, right? But I really don't want to make this conversation about SEO because what you're saying right here is pretty critical and important. So, first of all, one thing that you said was some companies who 1 out of 10 know what they want,
Yeah,
the other nine doesn't, right? And especially with that, my friend likes the FOMO expression, the fear of missing out.
sure.
We're seeing a lot of this, right? Everybody wants AI. Everybody wants a flashy colored rainbow button that says AI in their software.
Yeah.
And we're getting to a point, I'm even seeing memes down the internet where people are making fun of the dumb AI implementations,
Yeah.
right? Why should just pretending, but it wouldn't be a huge surprise if WinRAR were to add AI to their zipping program. But what's the point of AI on a zipping program? And you're seeing a lot of this. And you mentioned how important it is to understand when to insert and implement AI. When it's not about the customer, the user being ready, it's about you, the backlog being ready. Could you tell us a little bit more, some stories made? Of course, you don't have to disclose anything and or anyone, but don't you remember any conversations regarding AI where you saw this in practice? The customer wanted AI more than anything else, or he thought that he wanted it, but then you were the guy to say, "Hey, bro, it's not this. Please, let's step back. Let's first structure the base, the home, and then get the AI on board."
Yeah, no, absolutely. Actually, we had one client that I'm thinking of when you asked me that question that they had been pitched by an AI vendor
Okay.
fairly recently when we engaged with them initially. And this vendor had told them it really doesn't matter the state of your data. We can take what you have and improve it and deliver you a working AI model that will be accurate, trustworthy, etc.
Okay.
Uh, just overpromising, right?
How would
And
the AI be good if everything else was a mess first?
exactly,
Mhm.
garbage in, garbage out. That's been a cliche since the 50s and 60s.
You know, Bart.
Right? I mean, with very early card punch computing, garbage in, garbage out has never been more true
Hmm.
than with AI. So when you build AI on bad data, all it does is amplify your bad
Bad
data.
data.
And
Yeah.
you have false positive, false negatives. Some things will be right, but so much will be wrong that it's like bottling muddy water, right?
Yeah.
Get
Yeah.
the water clean before you're going to bottle it. That's an example that, or analogy that I've used before.
And it's not a
Uh,
bad one.
so we came in and really it was somewhat bad news to deliver to them because their CEO had gotten a little bit excited about AI. They wanted to do this, and we had to really reset their expectations, but in a way that built trust. And I think, and this is a client we've had for multiple years now, and we've done the prerequisite work and we've now implemented AI, and we're into multiple models now that we've created for them using this data. But we had several years of work to get them to the point where that was going to be possible and productive, and not to spit out some kind of garbage with false positives and negatives all over the place that people would just throw up their hands and say this doesn't work. And that's what I told them is the worst thing you can do for your project number one for AI is fail,
Yeah.
because there's enough skepticism out there,
Mm,
uh,
true.
justified, and especially several years ago it was even more justified. There are people who have a human nature response to AI, of course. So you automate some part of their job. Their next worry is how long until they automate the rest of my job, and then I'm out of a work, right? And maybe I don't need to support this. Maybe I don't want to be
Part of.
forthcoming
Yeah.
in discovery conversations about how this works and what are the rules and the exceptions to the rule, because they're holding back, because they in that sort of psychological vein, they are very worried about it. So you've got to move carefully, and it's got to succeed, and it's got to be delivered with change management to deal with those human nature components, reorganization, reskilling
Oh yeah.
employees.
Oh yeah.
It sometimes is the right answer on a commercial thought process, that the goal of an AI project is that you can let some staff go. That is, and if the economic reality of their vertical is such that their competitors are already using pricing power, and
Hmm.
the revenue they used to have is not going to be there for the same service, it becomes necessary. But if clients are thinking ahead far enough and they are a first mover in their space, we often see they don't need to let people go. It literally can free them from
Of
some
that
part of what,
mundane job, right?
yeah, maybe free them from all of what they were doing with some
Hmm.
mundane, tedious kind of work,
Hmm.
and elevate them to the work that human intelligence is really capable of,
Yeah.
that AI isn't. And there's a lot of that kind of
Oh,
work,
sure.
right? They call things, and AI is an expanding circle of what it's capable of, but it's not taken over the world yet.
Yeah,
There's
I agree.
all kinds of creative work, judgment calls, synergy of strategy and process that AI just still struggles
Oh,
with.
and it struggles a lot. Even with prompting, you can reprompt, but it still doesn't get the feeling that we usually and quickly get just by being humans, of course.
Right. Yeah. So that's the example that was running through my mind when you were asking. I think one of the luxuries of being a consultant is, whether it's me or one of our contract consultants, we can shoot straight with the client.
Yes, I agree.
And it is, you want to be diplomatic in that, but they are paying you to tell them
The
what you
hard
think.
truth,
You know.
right?
And so That was part of it, and I think we built a rapport and we built trust. Always our goal to build trust where the client gets a confidence level that we are looking out for their best interests, not our own, right? I mean, if we recommend something, it's because we think it will help them, not because we're seeing more billable hours or we can bring in more people from the team or whatever. And getting that level of trust is so key. And we got that in almost all of our clients. We did with this example I'm talking about, that they believed what we were saying and bought into the journey and the kind of the strategic roadmap that we laid
Okay.
out. And we're there now where, the data was centralized where it wasn't before. There's a data quality component of what's there and looking at data that's missing, looking at data that's out of range. Either you clean it up, you may use AI even to supplement and enrich if there are reasonable prediction accuracies there of what missing data might be. If it can scan documents, for example, and pull out things, or if it can look at comments or anything else to sort of fill in those gaps, that's extremely valuable.
Agree.
And when you get it to that point and you really are treating data as an asset that's strategic, then yeah, you're ready to do some AI. And so then the fun begins of identifying use cases and what's the impact of that? What's the cost and complexity? Is it a fully autonomous kind of situation where you can just turn some process over to the AI, which for internal facing things that's more common.
Hmm.
It's challenging to get AI to that point if you're interacting directly with customers and clients. So we end up recommending oftentimes a human in the loop sort of approach there where the AI is giving them a first draft of something or it's predicting certain events with respect to a customer or an order or a project. And the staff can look at that and use it if they believe it, use it as a jumping off point, maybe wordsmith and tailor it and deliver after they've kind of touched it up. Whatever the model is there, the efficiencies are real. Yeah, if you do it the right way and you're thoughtful about data readiness and the change management side, there's a tool called the Human Tech Ladder that we really like. It's sort of a spectrum of how is AI going to change the world of the individual, the team, the organization. How's it going to change the world of the technology platform?
Yeah.
Sort of horsepower and data and so forth do we need? It's a full ladder of impact that you really need to think about every level and have a good answer for where are you, where do you want to be, and what's the path from here to there. And that's how you succeed with AI.
Do you have a preferred AI implementation? Doesn't have to be only B2B. But like you, if we're talking about AI right now, you're super passionate about it, I can see. And that actually is amazing for the customers that work with you, seeing how passionate you are during the meetings, right? I imagine some of them might ask some friends maybe in a bar, like, hey, bro, what's your AI? What's your favorite AI? Again, not talking about LLM, not talking about if it's Claude, if it's GPT or something else, but where do you see AI being the best so far today?
Yeah. We try to be vendor agnostic. That's the first thing I want to say.
Good
It's not
point.
a lot of these things on different platforms. One thing we have avoided doing on purpose is becoming a platinum partner for Microsoft or Google or Amazon. Or we want that flexibility to work with the client and say, well, what do you have already,
Hmm.
and what's working for you, and what's not. And sometimes, oftentimes, it makes more sense to start with what they have, especially if some components are working, rather than to forklift everything away and bring in something new just because that's what we're comfortable with. But having said that, I will say the generative AI language models, the
Yeah.
LLM
Yeah.
large
They are
language
the
models,
the golden boys.
and I say that's what everyone would answer, I think, right now. Machine learning, natural language processing, visual AI. There's other types of AI out there certainly, and many of them have been around for longer. But I think in the business world, We find more use cases for the generative AI in language, some in visual as well, but really it's just a fertile ground
Yeah, it's super,
for
super fertile
coming up
ground.
with language, combining language, understanding, summarizing
Hmm.
language. Language is how we communicate
Yeah,
in
sure.
business. And so we've got use cases that they're the obvious ones, like using an LLM to generate marketing copy, SEO articles for your website, things like that. That's sort of obvious. Even before ChatGPT, we had tools that were doing that.
Sure.
Uh, but now understanding complex documents.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
so as an example, we have a client that their policies and employee handbook is over 200 pages PDF.
I would never read that as an employee.
No, and no one does, right?
Yeah.
And they have a table of contents and they have an index and they try to make it usable. But the power for an HR group to be able to put a tool in front of their employees doesn't cost a lot of money to train a
Hmm.
model on a document. And that sounds like a lot, right? 200
Yeah.
plus pages. For an AI
For
model,
an AI, easy
it's
peasy,
chump change.
for sure.
And so that LLM interface where they can ask a question, well, how many years do I have to do this before I qualify for that?
Can I date a
Or,
core worker? One of the
yeah,
preferred
what
questions for everybody.
we have to close down this facility temporarily. What's the process I need to follow?
Oh, that's
Who
a
do I
great one.
need to inform? Can you help me draft messages that are appropriate and give the details they're expecting? These kind of things are so powerful,
Yeah,
and particularly around crisis management or sort of quick turnaround opportunities, and even just for employee benefits handbooks and things like that. It's just a good employee experience if
agreed.
they have a way to ask a question without having to put in a ticket to the HR help desk and have someone call them back later. They can ask 25 questions in one sitting very quickly, and they don't feel like they're wasting someone's time or asking a stupid question. So, this kind of thing, it really is just an exciting world right now with
It
respect
is,
to JI and the language capabilities. I think more and more through time will focus around vision,
and I
augmented
agree.
reality with AI, right? What would this look like if this new building is built on this
Yeah,
site, or these kind of things? There's real power in that because again, the user and the customer comes first. A picture paints 1,000 words, as they say, and so that ability to really give something that's compelling, that replaces a 5-page document that describes the construction of a new building and where it'll be located and what it'll look like, as opposed to here's our augmented reality glasses, let us show you. And by the way, you can navigate it if you want to go in, pretend like you're in the entry lobby of the building.
those meta prototype they showed case like a month ago are fantastic for this.
Absolutely. And so
Fantastic.
there are
Yeah.
real things, and that's all possible. And not just possible, I mean, the cost of the compute behind this is just going down. It's a race to the bottom, right? And although you wouldn't know it looking at NVIDIA stock price, but
I wish I invested before.
and the cost and feasibility is a big part of ROI. So we have things that we helped clients a few years ago, and it was like, this is sort of on the bubble. It might not be worth the squeeze, so to speak. Now we come back and look at those projects and say, I mean, the cost is a third of what it would have been.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a
And the
slam dunk.
time that the time spent is also cut in half or way more than half as well, right? Again, as you said, the employee experience of asking HR bots and having it all. It's the same as user, right? We're just using the term employee, but it is user experience all over,
Right.
which is one of the most important things as we've been talking here right now. Literally having good support, good communication, language is super important. And I 100% agree. I live to talk. That's basically my motto. I wish I could be here, Jeff, with hours and hours and hours talking more and asking more. And I definitely want you back at the episode if you so wish to do as well. But
Be
I
happy
do
to.
have one last question that I always save up for my guests, which is you're now Jeff Roberts. You've been working so many years now. You've built so much. You learned so much. You also failed so much, I imagine. So you also
Sure.
had the regrets. You also had raw, awful days. And right now, what would you recommend to anybody who wants to follow your steps? What would you recommend to, can be a young person, can be an adult, can be somebody older, but do you have any advice for those who understand the value of high quality deliveries, that understand the value of relationships, but even so, at the end of the day, still have to deal with customers wanting AI everywhere in their website?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great question. And I guess what I want to say, and this would apply to younger people as well, I think that the way IT professionals are trained is, for understandable reasons, it's very technically focused,
Yes, of
right?
course.
It's all about the tools and this esoteric knowledge of, what are they capable of and how do you put them in this kind of configuration and how do you do this and programming languages and
Hmm.
how does all and so we focus a lot on that. And IT tends to attract people who love very complicated things like that and being able to figure out really how to make them sing
Hmm.
and do amazing things. What I would say is don't forget the business.
That's a
Uh,
great
there
advice.
are
Yes.
a lot of IT professionals, the vast majority, sadly, believe that they are hired for their technical expertise, that when they're learning new things, they want to learn new technical things, grow their career that way, and that their goal in IT is to run an elegant platform, an efficient architecture. They want their IT processes to be just efficient and documented, and everything is inward looking. And I think a huge part of the success that I have had, to the extent I have, it's because I've thought about the business. And we were talking about how rare it is that IT consulting firms even talk about revenue or market share.
Yes.
That's an example, even in consulting, of people who are C-level, very, very decades of experience, and they still have these blinders on. And it's true that in the workplace we need certain bandwidth and certain skill sets to just keep these platforms working. So you can find a job if you focus on the technical. But I think, the reason I was promoted when I was, the reason that I have had success now trying to sell consulting engagements, where I have had success, whether doing it myself or finding I have 400 plus consultants
Yeah,
in our network, they're chosen largely because they have this mindset.
I see.
And I will tell you, we choose the consultants for our team. It's probably a third or a quarter of what's really out there in terms of consulting, freelancers or what have you. And the reason it's the minority is most people lack this mindset. You only do IT, I believe, the way you do it and what you choose to do for organizational impact. Are we making something more efficient? Are we improving the service for the organization's customers?
Hmm.
Could be internal, could be literally our clients and customers as a company. Are we rising, our market share in the space? Are we building a new capability and creating market share where we haven't even been playing before? Real business impact. Of course, efficiencies are a part of that and saving money. Those projects are still good. They're a very traditional kind of goal for IT. But don't stop at efficiency, right? We say innovate beyond efficiency because that's really just table stakes, I believe. And the companies that are winning in a lot of these industries are winning because they're playing offense with their technology, their data, their AI. They are creating capabilities that their competitors can't match. And then they're handing that to the sales team and saying, go take over the world.
Yeah.
Because you sell this, tell them, look, we've got this customer portal, this predictive model, pricing power that we can offer now because of the level of automation and personalization that our platform is enabled, they can't lose. And there's nothing more exciting for an organization than to get to that point. And this word disruption is thrown around a lot, but
It
that's where
is.
you disrupt. That's where you literally you do something that I mean, customers just say, well, I mean, how quickly can we get out of our existing agreement? We're going to switch to you.
That's wow.
It's just thinking about the business. That would be. It's a long answer to your question again. Sorry, but
Don't apologize. It's awesome.
I preach this to my kids. Some of them are in some technical roles, and I tell them it's great. Learn the stuff, learn the skills, but don't forget the context of how
Mhm.
you're using that, and ask those questions and be creative on their behalf of what you could do with these tools to really drive impact.
I have nothing else to say. You were more than great here throughout all the questions, Jeff. I highly appreciate you taking your time to come and talk to us, share more about how IT is working for you. Again, so many things that I didn't know, so many things that I wanted to ask and I didn't have the chance, and I hope that we will in the future. If you have
Come back.
anything less to say, yeah, no, you're surely coming back. Don't you worry. Anything extra, anything less you want to say before we say goodbye to our viewers?
I guess just finally, I love talking about this. So anyone listening, if you've got questions, doesn't have to be an engagement. I'm not, I'll talk to you even if you just have questions. And this is honestly my favorite kind of topic to discuss.
Perfect.
So our website,
And it's
innovationvista.com.
gonna be in the description. Everything else for you is gonna be in the description of this video. Okay, so whoever
Perfect.
wants to get in touch,
Yeah.
yeah, just reach out. We live in the hyperlink world. Just click once, you're gonna go to Jeff's website. He's gonna be more than happy to talk to you all. Jeff, that's it then. Thank you so much again. I wish you an amazing year ahead, and then we may find each other more and more here at A Coffee with Experts. Once
Well,
again,
thank
thank you
you again for
so
the invitation.
much. Thank you for accepting it. And everybody else watching, thank you again. This has been Victor with A Coffee with Experts at G2Web Solutions. Jeff here at Innovation Vista, an amazing person. Thank you again. Wishing you all an amazing day ahead. Bye bye.